we're a very technological company. On the other side, I say, forget technology for a second. First of all is really the employee and the customer. And when you have those two people in your focus, then the rest comes. It's no problems. So at the end of the day, you have to create an environment where people and technology can work together. And I think also to make sure that people are not slaves of technology. And on the other side, technology is not the only driver. So actually, when we look at how to go and how to do things, what is very interesting is very often that the technical people think they know how to do it. We basically say, you know one thing, let's start from the customer. What does he need? And when you start with this, usually you have the two worlds coming together.
A human approach to your staff and to your customer, like, do you accompany people through this transition? Like, do you have a plan for training people towards new technologies? Or how do you deal with this?
This is a very good question, because it's not always easy, and I also believe you cannot always accompany everybody from one thing to the next, because we all are different. And I think that you have to be able to make some choices, and there are moments where certain people, you cannot train them. But I think also within a company there are still enough jobs that are similar or that can be taken over. So I think it's just a question of shift, it's a question of programming, what is your future? And of course, we sometimes are also ourselves a little bit victim of what is happening in the world, what is happening in the market, how on one side the likes or dislikes of people change, but also the way disruptive products are coming, or even the regulator or the legislator decides to change his approach. And so that's why we constantly have to adapt, and that's what we have to do.
Can you give us examples of innovation you've brought to the market?
Cornèrcard has been, since day one, in a very special situation, because in the 70s, when it entered into the world of credit cards, let's say that it was a relatively small bank, and it was a very big gamble. The son of the owner at the time, he's today's chairman of the bank, has been a visionary. So he saw something that nobody else had seen. And when you think that Cornèrcard Bank was one of the 10 founding members of Visa International in '74, you realize that, okay, they were really visionaries. And so you had this very small bank sitting with all the big banks. And so it developed a lot. And having been in this special situation with Visa, let's say that we became very quickly the testing bank for Europe for innovations, because we believed in innovations. We had to be different. I would say our customers have a card from us because we offer something. It's not just because they have a bank account. Very often they don't have a bank account with us. So it was a very different approach. And this has always brought us to two things: to be very attentive to the needs of the customer and to constantly try to innovate and bring something more. And I would say in the meanwhile, what we have added is how to bring in what we discussed earlier, that probably artificial intelligence does not have, is how to bring in emotions. So probably you say, how do emotions and cards fit together? Well, they do. I would say, call it innovation. Yes, it's also innovation. But a part of this, coming back to your original question of innovation, we have been bringing in, we were the first one bringing a card with a chip to do secure transaction on the internet here in Europe, to bring contactless cards that permit you to go skiing, etc., so you wouldn't have to constantly take out your day pass and freeze your hands. We tried always to combine things. And of course, let's say we also had innovations where we started very early with mobile transactions on phones, when you still had very slow and WAP. Yeah, so we did the first WAP shop together with somebody who at the time was selling CDs, and so today CDs don't really exist anymore. But it was quite amazing. I remember we were doing the press conference, and we said, okay, we have to have a live transaction, but in case we have a fallback, because we don't know if WAP is working. And it took us an hour first to have WAP working, because so it's like, but all of these things helped us to move on. And we, I would say, also have said sometimes no to innovation. So there are certain things we have not done, but usually we have always seen that we have been quite lucky in pushing in the right direction.
And have you failed sometimes? Is there some products that didn't work? Because in the world of startup, there is this thing that you need to learn to fail, and you need to fail fast and come back from it.
Yes, I would say we have been in certain cases too early on the market. So we pushed, for example, P2P payments, so person-to-person payments. And the idea at the time was that especially foreigners living in Switzerland, for migrants, etc., that could be very interesting to send money directly from their card to their bank, thinking that on the other side the person would not have a card. And we launched a pilot. It worked very well.
When was it?
This was 8-9 years back. And very clearly it was too early. And on the other side, because I think this is also something which is interesting in projects, when you do a project, it always depends who are the people who are leading the project and are they committed and do they believe in it. And it's sometimes very interesting, you change one person and suddenly the project doesn't work anymore. Or you have a new person coming and suddenly the project works. So in that case, we have been too early, and this was interesting. The management thought, okay, we are very happy if people come into our bank, if they need cash, and so they receive the money and they go out with the money, fantastic, potentially is a new customer. For the bank, the reaction in this country where it all happened was, oh my God, we have people coming in, they're disturbing us, why don't they go to an ATM? And okay, they didn't have a card, they were not customer of theirs, but why do they come to us? And so the whole project eventually fizzled off. And today we're talking all about P2P. Now here in Switzerland we have some problems at the level of legislation and FINMA and know your customer and all these kind of stories, which hopefully we're going to resolve soon. But I think all of this helps you to understand that when you do something, sometimes you probably don't always think about all the little things that might make a product very successful or not so successful.
Being too early is a very big curse, actually. It happens to a lot of people that were too early. It's really bad to be too early, and timing is something that is very hard to master. And with Daniele Finzi-Pasca earlier, he was telling us about luck and how important luck is in business. And sometimes as managers, people don't recognize that luck plays a part, but it does play a part in everything we do in life, and there's not much you can do.
I think there are two things. On one side, you have to be lucky, clearly. Secondly is, okay, sometimes timings, you're too early. And I think there is a third element which is important, is you have to believe in what you do. So if you believe, just move on. I think we have been the first one, for example, in Switzerland to introduce prepaid cards. And when we introduced prepaid cards for young people, we had lots of journalists who were telling us, are you crazy? You are giving a card to youngsters and basically you are pushing them to indebt themselves, etc., etc., etc. And what was really fun is it took us 1 year to make clear that this is not a credit card, this is a prepaid card. You can only spend what you have on the card, you cannot spend more. And by the way, very soon, these kids will need a card for internet, if they want to buy music, if they want to buy this, etc., etc. So it took us 1 year to finally make clear to those people here in Switzerland that, look, this is something that kids need. Once this was clear, the first reaction was, yes, but it's too expensive. Now, okay, there is always an excuse. Today, everybody has a card, and let's say lots of youngsters have a prepaid card because they want to go studying, they want to go traveling, they need to buy things. So sometimes you have to also say, okay, it has been early, doesn't matter, let's go on. We introduce constantly new products, and sometimes I say I'm the culprit that we cannot stay put in one place but always come out with new things, which of course creates lots of challenges. You know, as we were talking earlier about payment with your mobile phone and using your credit card, your prepaid card directly on your mobile phone. Now the point is, it seems all very simple, and we are constantly praising how simple it is, and it is simple. But when we're doing, for example, all the tests in the market, you know, today, after a year and a half that we have introduced Apple Pay and Samsung Pay has come, etc., and we have now new things coming and we can talk about it later, let's say it is relatively normal when you go paying in a supermarket, in a shop, that you just take out your phone and you pay with your phone. But if I think about what happened, or I think back what happened in 2-3 years ago, when we were testing this and we had it ready for a long time, it was very interesting because you went to a shop or to a supermarket, and when I said, can I pay with my phone, they would look at you and saying, are you crazy? We as an industry have, for example, told the people at the cashier how to deal with a card. And now suddenly this rule changed. The card was not there anymore physically. But at the same time is, okay, can I pay with my card? Yes, where is your card? It's here on the phone, or it's in my watch. So this is where it's very interesting. So what is simple, or what eventually become simple needs quite some time, and this is something that we never have to underestimate. Thank you very much.